welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Portia and I'm currently in recovery from anorexia. I recently reached my 2-month all-in mark and I wanted to share with you guys how I was going and what it's been like for me. But I honestly didn't know where to start with this video, so I got you guys to send in some questions, and that's what I'm going to be answering today. If I have a bit of a lisp, it's because this piercing is new and I'm still getting used to how to talk with it. So bear with me if I stumble over words. But yeah, in this video I will be talking about eating disorders and other mental health related things. If you feel like it might be triggering to you in any way, please click off, but for the most part I will try and keep this pretty lighthearted and trigger free for you all. I think that's everything. My hair looks awful because I filmed this video already and then it was all blurry, and I filmed it on hair wash day. It is now not hair wash day and very much past that, so I have very greasy hair. If we could all just pretend like it looks nice, that would help. Okay, let's get started. So how has being all in affected other areas of your mental health? So I have borderline personality disorder, and this means that I do have, I can have mood swings quite, it's very often. But more so, I just feel emotions very intensely. Being in my eating disorder meant that these emotions were so numbed. All I was focusing on was food, what I was going to eat next, was I losing weight. Just my entire brain was flooded with just food, food, food. And so I really had no space to actually feel any emotions, or it just numbed everything. Traumas, everything was just numbed, and it was like it almost didn't exist for a lot of my time deep in my eating disorder. However, now that I've been in recovery, even before all in, I did, you start to get your emotions back, you start to feel again, because your mind has space for things other than just food, because you're finally actually nourishing it. And this has meant that, I guess in some ways it's like my BPD got worse, but it didn't get worse, it's just that I'm actually feeling again, and I'm no longer numbing myself out from all those emotions. So that's been hard, because it's like I've gone so long feeling almost nothing unless it was in relation to my eating disorder, and now I'm feeling everything, and I'm having to work through traumas, and I'm having to actually address my borderline personality disorder and try and get my moods, sorted so that I'm not having these intense drops all the time. And that has been hard, but at some point I was going to have to recover from my eating disorder, and whenever I was going to do that, I was going to have to face my borderline, really. So no matter what, I was going to have to get there at some point. But I think, do expect that if you're coming out of your eating disorder, you're going to get feeling back, you're going to get emotions back. Your brain is going to have space to actually think about things other than just food, and that might mean that you might get some really heavy negative emotions, because our eating disorders tend to stem from something, not just the idea of oh, I want to be skinny. It's normally stemming from something like low self-esteem or trauma, or other mental health issues like borderline, or a range of different things. But it's not, you don't just get an eating disorder simply because you want to be skinny. It comes from something else. Bullying, all sorts of things, is where your eating disorder stems from. And when you're coming out of your eating disorder, those things are still there, your traumas are still there, the bullying that occurred is still there. You now actually have to deal with that rather than just using your eating disorder to numb it out. But this is just part of the recovery process, and it is going to be there, and it is tough, but the good news is that also fueling your body means that you do also think clearer. So you do have more ability to work through these things more level-headed, I guess. I don't know if that was a lot. I spoke a lot just then. Getting back your period. I got back my period like 1 month all in, and for me, like, the weight that I got discharged at when I was inpatient, that was the goal weight, that was the weight I had to stay at. Like, that was, they were like, yep, minimum, it was a little bit higher than minimum healthy really, but they were like, yeah, that's great, stay at that BMI, that's fine. At that BMI, I was not getting my period. I was not healthy, but because it was this minimum healthy, this magic number that they had decided, it was fine for me to stay there. And obviously it really wasn't. I had to go kilos and kilos above that number, that BMI, to get my period back. And that also was also with, you know, making sure to honour my hunger unconditionally. And I also stopped exercising, mainly because I wanted to get my period back, but also because before my eating disorder, exercise was never really a thing that interested me. I was, you know, not really into that. And it was something that came with my eating disorder, meaning that it was very disordered and I didn't want to keep doing it because it would feel like a compulsory behaviour or a behaviour that I was doing to try and counteract the increase in food. So I stopped exercising as well, and that's basically how I got my period back, but I did have to go much higher than the BMI that I got set. So if you're at this BMI that your doctor has set you and you're not getting your period back, you might really need to go higher than that number. And I know that's scary because you hear this minimum BMI and you're like, okay, that's all I have to do and then I'm fine and I don't have to do anything else. But that's not always the case, and not really ever the case. Most people's healthy BMI isn't the minimum healthy BMI. Most people are higher on the scale than that minimum healthy. Seeing your friends after recovery / family and friend support. Most of my friends are online. But I did see one friend who saw me in my eating disorder and has now seen me in recovery. And honestly, I was really nervous, so I do understand this question. I was really, really nervous about it. But it was fine. We ate chocolate pizza and we just had a good time and she was lovely. And I think a big thing is that if you are interacting with friends, most of the time they will be scared that they're going to say something wrong or that they are going to in some way trigger you. They're probably scared of that. So you're allowed to set up boundaries. You're allowed to say, hey, I'm not really keen on talking about this. Can we not talk about that? But like, you know, I am open to answering questions about this or whatever. Make sure you let yourself set up boundaries. You don't have to talk about everything. You don't have to talk about anything related to your eating disorder if you don't want to. Set up boundaries, and that goes the same with family as well. Set up boundaries, let people know what you're comfortable with and what you're uncomfortable with. Yeah, I think that's a big one. Just set up boundaries. Don't feel like you have to tell everybody everything if you do not want to, if that's not what you're comfortable with. Have you stayed consistent with your intake / hunger? So my hunger has gone like wee. I've had like extreme hunger and then like no hunger and then like kind of what I had before my eating disorder hunger, and then I've gone back and done it all over again. So my hunger has been, you know, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. My intake, has been really consistent. However, going all in doesn't mean that like you suddenly decide one day to go all in and then you never have a bad day ever again. Like, that is, although that would be amazing, is really unrealistic, because you're suddenly going all in, you're letting go of all these behaviours, and that means that your body does change quite a lot. So if you have a bad day, that doesn't suddenly mean that you failed or anything. For me, what having my bad days showed me was that my bad days would be, I would eat less at the start and like midday, you know. I'd be like, well, I'm a higher weight now. Surely I don't really need to eat so much. Maybe I am out of control. So I'd eat a little bit less. I'd still be eating and eating fair enough amount, but less. I wasn't honouring my hunger completely. And then by the end of the day, I would be so hungry and food would be so focused in my mind, and that was all it was again. It's like being deep in your eating disorder again, but suddenly, that then I couldn't help but like eat everything in one big go at the end of the day, and then I felt worse than if I had just ate it throughout the day. And it took me doing that a couple times to realise that it was really this cycle that was going to keep happening, and that it wasn't going to be beneficial in any way, and that at the end of the day I was feeling worse when I was doing that, because I was then eating so much in such a short period of time that I felt worse, because it felt like a binge. And that made me feel not like, I just felt worse. Sorry, it cut off. But yeah, it took me doing that cycle a few times to realise that it wasn't going to work, and that I really did need to honour my hunger completely. So if you have a bad day, take that bad day as an example of why you don't want to do that. That bad day was shit, right? It was a bad day. That's why you don't want to act on those eating disorder behaviours anymore, because it isn't helpful and it doesn't make you feel good. At least not long term. Questions about like how to deal with weight gain. I think I'm going to do like a complete different video on, because I feel like that's a big topic. How has your family responded to you being all in? My family was really supportive. I explained what all in was to them, and like why it was what I wanted to do going forward, and yeah, everyone was really supportive. But I think you do need to have that open communication, because it is hard for people who don't have eating disorders to understand. So try and be as open in that communication as possible. You'll find they'll be more supportive if you can help them understand. How do you think you're going? Do you think recovery is worth it? Yeah, I think recovery is worth it. I'm going good. I feel I've made so much progress in 2 months versus what I was doing before. I didn't expect to make this much progress in my eating disorder recovery in 2 months as I have. It's hard because I'm struggling with my borderline, because my emotions have come back, but my eating disorder recovery is going really well, and to think I've made that much progress in just 2 months is really astounding to me. And I would go back. How do you challenge fear foods? I wish there was a way that I could like tell you how to do this, an easy way, but the honest truth is like it's just really fucking hard, and I just do it. And I know that makes no sense, like when somebody's like, you just do it, because it's like, how do you just do it, because it's not as simple as just eating. I do find that if somebody else can challenge the food with me, so if I'm getting takeout, if somebody else in my family is having takeout, that really helps. And obviously I want to get to a point where I can have takeout without having to have someone else have takeout, or I can have this thing without other people having to have it. But at the start, that is really helpful. A lot of the things that at the beginning I had to challenge with somebody else, I don't have to do that anymore. I can eat on my own. But there are still things that I do have to like work on doing by myself, like eating takeout by myself and knowing that I don't need somebody else to do it. But in the start, that can be really helpful. What does the future look like for you? I'm hoping to take this rest of this year to just focus on my mental health, and then I'm hoping to study next year. How to regularly snack. Again, this is like similar to the other question. How do you challenge fear foods? Give yourself time. It is really hard, and it's not as simple as just eating. But in the same sense, you just have to do it. And that doesn't make any sense because it sounds so contradictory. Snacking regularly, set yourself up with the minimum of 3 snacks at least. And just try to slowly incorporate more and more if the idea of just like going straight into it is really scary. Try and just slowly increase. But I know I went through times when I was like, I can eat 3 meals fine, but I can't snack regularly. And then it was like, I can snack all the time, but I can't eat 3 meals. And it is a journey, so yeah, give yourself time. Fear foods you still have. I still need to challenge crisps more. I can eat some, but not all of them. And Indian food as well. What foods you tend to eat / crave now versus when you started. For the most part, I still crave the same. I still crave sweet foods and like to eat majority? That's not a word. I don't know how to say that. Majority sweet foods. But I do get savoury cravings now. Some things are just weird, like in the beginning of my recovery, I really loved eating baked beans. I thought they were great. And now I do not. I still like baked beans. They're still good. I just like couldn't care to have them. Like I don't think about like, oh, what do I want for dinner, and be like, oh, I really want baked beans. Whereas like before, that's what it was. I was like, I really want baked beans. Now I'm like, no, not really. And I'm just not as interested in food. Like I just don't care. Everything was always planned. Like what was I going to have for dinner? What was I going to have for lunch? What was I going to have for breakfast? Even when it wasn't about just having the fear of food, but it was just like I was always so interested in it that I always had it planned out because I couldn't wait for what I was going to eat next. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm having for dinner. And it's like 4 o'clock. And it's like I probably should figure it out though in case I need to like cook something. But yeah, I think cravings in general just go down. Has your appetite and desire to eat gone down? Again, it's been a bit roller coastery. At the moment I feel like I've kind of leveled out. But there have definitely been dips and highs as well. And the same kind of thing with that is how to respond to extreme hunger at a higher weight. I really struggled with that. I got extreme hunger when I was inpatient for my borderline, and at first it was really hard, and then I was like, honestly, I just logically tell myself things like, this is why you have extreme hunger. Your brain thinks it's in a food scarcity. Like, for me, like, logic works a lot. Also, a lot of the time, I noticed, like, there were just, when I was really struggling, there would be times when I would realize that I had been, like, sitting, staring at the wall for 10 minutes, but in my head, I was literally going, opposite actions, your thoughts aren't facts, and just, like, repeating it in my head, and then, like, after that 10 minutes, I, like, get up and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to get something to eat. So for me, mantras, they also really work. Sorry, it cut off. But yeah, it's not easy always to respond to extreme hunger at a higher weight because, you know, we feel like we don't need to be eating as much now that we're at a higher weight, but that's not true. Our bodies go through a lot when we're in our eating disorders. mentally and physically, and we can't see all that, and it does take time to heal that damage. So just because you're at a higher weight doesn't mean that you shouldn't be eating as much. You probably still definitely need to if your brain is giving you those signals. What benefits are you seeing after 2 months all in? I just think about food a lot less. It's just not the most important thing in my life anymore. I'm not interested in watching people eat on YouTube. Not even really. I used to always take pictures of my food, like constantly, like every single meal and snack, and I don't do that anymore. I will like go to post something and I'll realize I don't have a picture to post because I'm not bothered. So food just isn't on my mind. Like, I just don't care about food, and that is so good. It feels so good. I never thought I'd get there, but you do. And I think actually having emotions back, like actually feeling like I'm more than just this eating disorder. Like, I have emotions back, I have interests back, I have things that I want to do back, and I'm not just so absorbed in the eating disorder. Moving on from your eating disorder identity without it, that is really hard, and it's something I'm working on as well. Honestly, I don't have an easy question. I don't have a really easy answer for this. But remember that you do deserve happiness. I get a lot of the time feel like when I'm happy, when I'm doing something that I enjoy, a hobby or something, and I get happy, I'm like, I don't deserve that feeling. I don't deserve to be happy, but that's not true. Everybody deserves to feel happiness and joy. So do the things that make you happy, and you'll find those are the things that actually make up your identity. Those are the things that make up who you are, not your eating disorder. No mental hunger, so finding it hard to eat more. 3 meals and 3 snacks minimum, or eat every 4 hours. I know it's hard because you're feeling like, well, I don't have the signal, so why do I need to eat? But you still do. Our bodies get very confused when we've gone through our eating disorders, and the hunger signals can take a long time to get back to normal, and you need to remember that you still need to give your body food regardless of those hunger signals or not. And how to keep going when things get hard. For me, it's mantras. Mantras get me through, and just write down the things that A, are the positives that you've found in recovery, B, what are the things that do keep you going. So write down your mantras, write down the fact that you love your pets and that you love being able to be at home and not in hospital, that you love being able to enjoy cake, that you write down everything that keeps you going, so that when you are in your worst state you can look back on that. And also, like, I see a lot of things like I love you and you inspire me so much. That keeps me going. The idea of being able to help others is such a huge thing for me, but I realize that I can't help anybody if I am still sick myself and if I am still struggling mentally myself, and that is something that keeps me going, is the fact that I want to be able to help others, and that inherently means that I need to get better myself. And if I can help others, then I'm going to get better, because for me that's such an important thing, is that ability and chance to help others. That's so important to me. So when I think about that, I guess recovery from my eating disorder feels like a very small thing. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, because you know what? Helping somebody else feels so much more important than staying in my eating disorder. So find the things that are important to you. Anyway, that's all I'm going to answer. I'm sorry this video is so long. I love you guys. Thank you for sending me through questions, and thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye!